I'm calling to order the Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 Human Rights Commission meeting. Tom, can we get a roll call?
Shalini Smith.
Here.
Peter Resnick. Vahagan Shiflikan.
Here.
Jerry Fry. Charles Davidson.
Here.
Ann Panthen.
Here. Thank you. Does anyone have any additions to the agenda? Nope, no additions. Let's move on to approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which would have been the February 18, 2025 meeting. Do I have a motion
I'll put forth that motion.
and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public input, seeing none. Unfinished business. No unfinished business. New business. We have some automatic recertifications. I think Shalini's going to read them off for us.
Okay, so the automatic certifications or recertifications are as follows. S. Schaefer Excavating Incorporated, Denler Incorporated, Fresh Cut Lawn Care, Gilbert Transport LLC, In Situ Form Technologies USA LLC, and Burns Clancy and Associates PC.
$20 and fewer.
Could you?
All right, so for both of these, it is a 2-year recommendation. Online Solutions LLC and Clark Dietz Incorporated.
Thank you. I need a second so that we can then discuss.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Are there any discussion, is there any discussion about those two companies?
Not really a discussion per se, but I will say I was very impressed by all of the work that Clark Dietz did. I mean, I really think they went above and beyond in trying to, in their good faith effort. So kudos to them.
Are there any other comments about any of, either of the two companies that we're talking about here? So that would be Clark Dietz and Online Solutions, which is CitizenServe, which is the online portal for contacting the city, I think, about complaints for public works kinds of things. As far as I know, is that the only use of CitizenServe? They don't use that to contact your office.
I believe that form may be set up that they can put just about any information they'd like to, and that it will be routed correctly.
It goes to the right department, yeah. Well, I can tell you as a user of CitizenServe, I like it. And I like having access that way. It is a little, I was a little concerned about the lack of diversity in their workforce because they are in a big area. And I know they're Hispanic and Latino, the population there is large. So I was a little, I thought, but then again, I don't know exactly what their requirements are for hiring, so it's hard to know. And then, is this the one, Shalini, that had the 0.5?
I was actually just about to ask about that. So for the purposes of filling out these forms, for employees that do spend time, I guess, in more than one department, should the form still just say one employee for both of those places, or should it actually be 0.5?
So it was one employee who splits their time.
Right.
And then your question again?
Like, I guess, is that the correct way to fill out the form, or should it just be put down as one and then just have, you know, the explanation at the bottom?
My guess would be is that they were trying to be as accurate as possible for the application.
Okay.
But we can suggest that if necessary.
Oh, I was really just curious, that's all.
Because we've had some split time before
Okay.
on their applications, and I believe they're trying to be as accurate as possible.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions about the two that we're discussing? No? Hagen? Okay. All in favor of accepting these two, say aye.
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 Thank you. Officers' report.
Okay. There is one complaint regarding employment discrimination based on race that is currently active, and it is in the response stage. I gotta edit that, because there are two. I should have put the other one on there. The other one is for public accommodation, and that one is also in the response stage. There were four informal inquiries. One was an inquiry about a neighbor dispute between private homeowners, and so this office does not have any jurisdiction over private homeowners. Another one was source of income, no jurisdiction, and I referred the person to the Illinois Department of Human Rights. One for employment termination, complainant, they're going to provide additional information. I did have an initial conversation with the person, and they're going to try to find some additional information to provide before it becomes an official complaint. And then I had one person phone who had questions about discrimination, and when I returned her call, she told me that she was busy at that point with a family member and that she would call back, and at this time, she has not called back. For office activities during this time, there wasn't a whole lot of outreach or recruitment or going out into, different meetings. The office we've spent most of our time focused on our daily activities, such as budgeting and planning. We're in that season right now. And so I spent a lot of time working on those things. And then our moments in human rights history. We have sit back and enjoy. On this day, on March 18th, 1831, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the case known as Cherokee Nation v. State of Georgia. The decision states that tribes are domestic, dependent nations whose relationship to the U.S. resembles that of a ward to his guardian. In 1877, President Rutherford B. Hayes appointed Frederick Douglass as a U.S. Marshal for Washington, D.C. American civil rights activist Fred Shuttlesworth was born on this day in 1922. He played a central role in the struggle against segregation and discrimination in Birmingham, Alabama. Shuttlesworth was a Baptist minister who used his platform to advocate for racial equality. In 1957, he co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, alongside figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph Abernathy, and Bayard Rustin. This organization was instrumental in orchestrating many of the major protests and actions of the civil rights era. Shuttlesworth was particularly active in Birmingham, a city notorious for its staunch segregationist policies and violent responses to civil rights activities. He faced multiple assassination attempts and numerous arrests. American civil rights activist Unida Blackwell was born on March 18, 1933. She became an activist after her employer fired her for trying to register to vote. She joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and Blackwell was part of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party in 1964. Her later activism included involvement in rural and regional development, child development, and diplomacy with China. Unida Blackwell was the first Black woman elected to be a mayor in Mississippi, and her peers elected her president of the National Conference of Black Mayors. During her lifetime, Blackwell, who died in 2019, served as an advisor to 6 U.S. presidents. In 1942, the U.S. government establishes the War Relocation Authority to take Japanese Americans into custody. Also in 1942, 2 Black players, Jackie Robinson and Nate Moreland, request a tryout, and they work out with the Chicago White Sox. It would be another 5 years or more, 5 years more, though, before Robinson would become the first Black man in the majors playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. That is my favorite part of the meeting.
We are learning, along with you guys, we are learning so much about the history that we weren't,
Yeah.
most of it wasn't taught in schools. So I'm very glad we're doing it.
I'm really glad. It was a great idea to start. And, you know, I was thinking when you were talking about Shuttlesworth, I have not ever heard that name, although it sounds like he was right there with Martin Luther King and all of the names that are familiar. But, you know, must not have popped up in my Catholic grade school history book.
There is a fairly recent documentary on Fred Shuttlesworth from PBS. It was produced by an acquaintance of mine, T. Marie King. She lives in a southern state and was able to use those resources to produce that documentary. So I believe it can be found on a PBS website. You might have to be a contributor, but it was shown on WIOL in the last couple of years.
Did you see it?
I did get to see portions of it. Caught it at the wrong time, but I know it's out there. So
Okay, all right. It's,
There's also a film on Bayard Ruskin's his life and his activities that led up to the March on Washington. It's on Netflix. It's a pretty good, film that shows what happened. And I had never heard his name.
And it's Bayard?
Bayard.
Bayard. Bayard. Ruskin?
Is it Ruskin or Rustin?
Rustin with a T.
With a T.
All right.
And I watched it, and it was really interesting because I was at the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, and then I saw that, and I was like, wow, because it shows all the happenings that happened that led up to that, and it was just, I was today old when I learned about all of those things, and so I'm learning a whole lot.
I'm often today old, it seems. All right, thank you for that. Thank you for the information. It's very useful. Okay. Announcements. This commission has 3 openings. And I presume that we will get back out and do some in-the-park things, and that season is coming up, and so we'll do that again. That's great. And I'll remind everyone that it's enjoyable to go out and do those and meet people. And if we can, recruit a few more members, that is really handy. So I would encourage everyone, when Tom and Carla send out the list of things that that the city will be participating in, that we try to get ourselves at least to one of them each throughout the summer, because it's fun. It's fun and useful, both things. And if you go to the farmer's market one, there's a lot of food, so that's also a plus.
And where are we placed at the farmer's market?
Right by the food trucks. Brilliant. That's leadership there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, 5:30 PM, right here. And if there's nothing else, the meeting is adjourned.